Please, not too much eye contact.
Not too much eye contact. We have a little separation, so we're okay. Well, I guess just to start with, we want to just talk a little bit about how kind of we came together, maybe just spend a minute doing that.
Sure.
How we've been partners for, 6 years now?
A little over 6.
Yeah, it's gone by fast.
Real fast.
Yeah. So partners for 6 years. You had been in the industry, we'll go over this in a little bit, but for a long time. And I had been in the industry about 5 years, and I needed a change, and you grabbed me in a parking lot. You came in a parking lot, and I remember it was snowing, and you said, hey, before you do anything or change anything, talk to me.
Let's chat.
Yep. And the only experience we had before that was
A couple of dinners or lunches
crab
or
cakes
something.
in New Orleans for one of the family reunions for Keller Williams.
For sure.
So awesome. So we've been together 6 years. We got a great team, some awesome agents. It's been a lot of fun. And really, we want the agents. It's just fun to see agents succeed, right? That's kind of the goal. And that's what we like seeing. And we feel that success can be driven from everything we can learn from other people, not just from agents, but from all industries.
Well, the other thing is I'm sure that you would agree that it's a lot more fun to succeed with others than on your own.
Absolutely.
And so, I, like you said, I did it for close to 15 years, and then we partnered. And then it's fun, just even if it was just you and I, it's more fun having more friends that we're able to work with because we got a lot of just really cool people. Yeah. So over the years, the relationships and the friendships that we've been able to build and enjoy and work with is pretty awesome. Yeah. So I think that's probably one of the most fun and cool things about what we've done and built over the last 6 years is just having that culture that we kind of cultivate just better relationships and just fun things like that,
I agree. Yeah, that's the best part of it is not only because when everyone else succeeds, obviously we succeed. So,
right.
But seeing that and truly what that can help and change their lives is pretty awesome. It's been really fun to see that happen to a few of our agents. So,
for sure.
Awesome. Well, I guess we wanted this episode to be more focused on you. So let's, in the spirit of total transparency and total, I guess, wanting to get to know Morgan today.
Tree of trust.
Let's tree of trust here. This is the circle of trust that we're all in. Let's start from the beginning. So I guess what were some lessons or stories or something from your childhood and that you feel changed the direction or changed your trajectory in your life?
Good question. So I feel like in school, growing up, I definitely hated school, and I definitely kind of hated more authority of structure, as you know. And so anyway, after school, I kind of bounced around. High school, I bounced around from, a few jobs. I was a dishwasher, and then I was a busboy, and I did construction for like 2 months. And then there was this opportunity to go work on a sales floor. And I did that for 2 years, and it was telemarketing, and it was actually a lot of fun. And changes brought me back. So I moved down to St. George. Changes brought me back to Idaho when I was about 21. And I was working on the sales floor, and I just, again, hated I got tired of the structure and the systems, and they were pretty strict. So
what were you selling? I can't remember.
We were selling business opportunities.
Okay.
And so it was a pretty fun thing.
Was it legit?
There was some gray areas on it, and which is one of the reasons why I kind of stopped doing it. And I was trying to figure out what to do. And when I was 21, I got let go. And so it was funny. My dad just told me, he's like, "Man, you're just unemployable." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And he's like, "No, it's okay. You just got to figure out a way to do things on your own terms."
Okay.
And I look back into what I made the most money on. And when I got out of high school, I flipped a couple of homes kind of by accident.
That's
And when
pretty
I,
young to start flipping homes.
and well, so this quick backstory behind that is my dad wanted me out of the house. And
Okay.
so when I was a pretty experienced teenager. And so when a couple of, late nights and sleeping on his couch, one morning he took me in front of a house and it was terrible. And he said, you're going to fix this up. I'm going to fund it and we're going to split it 50-50, but you're going to live here and I made payments to him on the amount.
Was it livable when you first got there?
It was not livable. It took Lacey and I were dating, and it took her and I, like, I think it was about 4 or 5 months to it was a complete gut and overhaul on this, on this home.
Yeah.
And so I look back on that and I thought, man, I made pretty good money on these 2 homes. And so then that's what kind of drove me into real estate. My dad at that point was still doing a little bit of real estate, buying land and trying to develop and doing some things. And so that's what kind of nudged me into it. Also, the joke is my mom and my siblings, they were all, academically, they did really well. So they all went to school and got degrees, and they were nudging me into go that direction. And I was confused, didn't know what to do. And I was like, man, do I go to school or do I go to school for 2 weeks and get a real estate certificate or a real estate license? And
No brainer if you don't like school.
Right. And so I thought, I could do anything for 2 weeks, and barely made the 2 weeks. And anyway, so that's how it started.
You passed the test, though.
Passed the test. And so I got my real estate license and then started really flipping homes again.
Okay. So what was your home? I know you're the youngest.
Right.
So what was kind of home, like teenage, junior high years and that? So it sounded like you were ready to get out of the house. Not that things were bad or anything, but just that, what was it like being at home?
The funny thing is I definitely liked independency, but I was definitely a failure to launch, kids. So that's one of the reasons why my dad took me out. And, one of the funny things is that we fixed that house up, and another morning I woke up and I heard this like loud sound outside, and I go outside and my dad's like pushing my dresser across the sidewalk towards my pickup. And I was like, what the heck are you doing? He's like, hey, grab up the other side of this and help me load it. And I was like, what? So we load it, and he's like, this is the day that you're moving into your house.
You had no idea.
No clue.
You didn't just sleep in on moving day. Okay.
And so I was definitely a nudge kid. But, my
awesome.
teenage, most of my siblings were older than me. I had a sister that was just a year older than me in school. And anyway, my parents traveled quite a bit. And so teenage years, they're definitely fun. Definitely, I didn't have too much of a curfew, or they tried to keep a curfew and I didn't. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that independency, as most teenagers do, and it kind of just carried on, I guess.
Awesome.
So
you finish your 2-week course, you pass the test for real estate. So what's next?
So I had no clue on what we know, right? Like, it's funny looking back at starting, and we look at agents who join our team, and I remember not knowing really what a listing was, or how to work with a buyer, or really how to do some of those things. And so I just jumped into flipping houses because it was pretty easy to do back then. Not a lot of people were doing it. And slowly started learning trial by fire. And I had, some people kind of help me, but I had no clue. And so the trial by fire really sucks, because then you have your friends and family referring people, because real estate is kind of like, I tell people it's like a popularity contest. Like, you got to get out there, but then you got to be able to walk the walk and
Gotta
talk the
deliver,
talk too.
right?
And so you got to be able to back that up.
Not just a pretty face.
And I didn't back it up at all. And so that was kind of rocky, and to figure that out. And I mean, word travels fast that I wasn't the most maybe responsible, or I mean, all of those things that would be a real estate agent. I was at the time the opposite.
And this was early 2000s?
This was like mid 2000s.
Okay.
And so anyway, yeah. So that was a bit of a hard learning curve. That was, it was a little bit tricky. And I remember, so as we're progressing, I was flipping some homes, and then the market crashed in 08, 09, and it just halted everything. And so I kind of had to rebuild out of that. Well, what also happened in that is our flip market around here kind of went in the tank. Like all the homes then, became...
We're dropping, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you expected a profit, you weren't getting it now.
Back before that crash, there was not a lot of bank-owned homes. And if there was bank-owned homes, nobody really wanted to touch them. Okay. And so I would go kind of find some house that looked condemned or looked, terrible, and I'd walk through it, and it, the good bones, saying, yeah. and I would say, okay,
I hear that a little too much.
Yeah, I could do this. And so then we turned it, and we started doing it. Well, then after the crash, there was a lot of bank-owned homes, and so it just kind of, and then it seems like everybody got into the flipping train. And so that was kind of hard to compete with. So here I was not selling very many homes, not, doing many flips. And anyway, I didn't know what to do. I was kind of freaking out because I was broke. We just built a new house, which is kind of crazy. And so I thought about it, quite a bit, and and I thought, man, maybe I should. A lot of my friends were going to the oil fields over in North Dakota. I've never done anything like that before, but they were all making money and they were cashing checks once a week. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll do that. But then I looked at a lot of their life work balance, and it was completely.
So those were kind of like home a week, away 2 weeks kind of thing?
It was even, a lot of them were worse. They were gone 3 weeks and home a week. And their work-life balance was completely scawampus that, I saw just, they struggled. They struggled personally. And so I thought, well, there is people who are doing well in real estate. You've already have this. You already kind of know what's going on. Maybe you should just put some more effort into it and see what you can do and see what you can make of this opportunity. And so I just remember going into work, and I wanted an office, and they didn't really have an office. And then the office they had was too expensive. And so I got the smallest office that they had. And I just fit like this little Target desk in there, and I couldn't really open it with my chair in there, and it was tricky. And I just went in there and just started making phone calls. What's that?
What brokerage was that with?
And that was with KW. So
okay, it was. Okay.
I started with a mom and pop that was WinStar, and then they turned to KW, and then KW, did their big in-town merger, and so it was pretty progressed after that. After, I think I was in the business for probably close to, I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And so.
Okay, cool. So talked about work-life balance and that. So at the time you have 5 kids, but at the time you probably had just a couple or something.
We had 2 and 1 on the way.
2 and 1 on the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And so at this point, you're like, okay, I know real estate's my path, right? You kind of knew at that point real estate was the way to go. You didn't want to go the oil fields. You didn't want to go the education route and do tons of schooling.
And then the rest of my credentials, like I could have been a manager at like a department store, maybe,
Yeah.
like nobody really wants to hire a C- student out of high school for like anything really awesome. So that I kind of had limited choices.
Right on. So, well, tell me about, because you talked about your dad kind of packing up your stuff. You woke up in the morning and the truck's half full and he's telling you to get out or it's time to move on.
Right.
And then also, you got this house to kind of help you get started in the same path, right?
Right.
So, and I know obviously you're tight with your dad.
Right.
So tell me just a little bit about him. And obviously I knew him a little bit
Right.
and what an awesome guy he was. And just tell me a little about that relationship and how that shaped you.
All right. So, a little brief history of my dad. He grew up, from what I've heard, he grew up pretty poor. They didn't have a lot of money. There was 9 boys, and he was third to the youngest. And he just always dreamed about something bigger and something more. And so he kind of understood, I guess, growing up of where they were, and he always appreciated it. And he never, talked negative about it. He just wanted to have something, different. And so it kind of sparked that entrepreneur mindset. And so he was just an entrepreneur, and he was a hard worker, and he was very methodical and precise in everything that he thought of. And he was he was about the most unorganized but yet organized person ever.
Okay.
And
what does that mean?
His desk would be like mine,
Okay.
with papers everywhere, but he knew where everything was.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so even when he was gone on his missions for it was like almost 2 years, he'd call me and say, hey, in the middle of my desk to the left, there's a yellow piece of paper with this guy's name, Brian, on it. I was like, there's no way. And I'd go look, and I'm like,
sure enough,
dude, that is crazy.
there's Brian.
And so there was just different things like that. But anyway, he was very encouraging, and he just kind of, I guess, knew what it took, and then saw kind of where I was and what it was going to take. And I look back, and he wasn't ever hard. I always thought he was, but looking back on it, I was like, man, he was super patient, very patient. And so he taught me a lot of the rich dad, poor dad, and assets and liabilities. And one of the things that I still think about, I'd always be like, hey, why don't you buy a new truck, or why don't you buy this, or why don't you, how come you don't have a plane? And he's like, I'm like, you could have a plane. And he's like, I can buy that because I don't buy that, is what he'd always tell me. And so I still always think about that. Like you can buy that because you don't buy that. And he just taught just simple principles about stuff like that.
I know when we very first kind of partnered up and we were still kind of getting to know each other, you said, yeah, I kind of want to buy this Porsche, but my dad would never let me hear the end of it. He said, just because
and so he passes away, 5 years ago. And I tell Lacey the same thing. I'm like, sometimes I feel like my financial compass kind of it's just definitely got away, that there's things that I'm like, there's no way in heck I would have ever bought this or that, or this or that, or this and that if he was alive. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I couldn't hide it from him. I couldn't, if he saw it, he would not be impressed, and it would be a conversation I wouldn't want to have. So I just wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't do it. But
one of my favorite stories about your dad is the sneaker story that you had told before, where he was wearing two different sneakers.
So he never bought clothes, and so he would call me his hand-me-ups, and so I would give him my clothes that I didn't wear anymore.
Yeah.
And it could be like you and I talk about generational fashion, he did not care. So there was, I gave him a pair of white Allen Iverson shoes, and I gave him a pair of white Air Jordan shoes, and they're both low tops. And one day we're like talking, and I was like, "You need some more shoes?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I always use some shoes." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "These don't look good." And I was like, "You're wearing one of each. Like, why?" And he looks down. He's like, "Oh shit." He's like, "I've been doing this for a while." And I was like, you didn't notice?" I was like, "No clue."
I love that it just didn't matter.
Right.
He was just all about relationships and people and that versus things.
Yeah,
which is
for
awesome.
sure.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. So you're starting to get into real estate. You get into KW. You kind of have a new focus. So how does that evolve?
So it kind of was the backs against the wall sort of thing. So I knew that it was something that I just had to do. I didn't have a choice. So it was either that or I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And so I had 2 kids. I had one on the way. So I just started making phone calls. And when you start getting a little bit of momentum, it kind of, I guess, breeds or gives you more positive thoughts, right? And possibility thoughts. And so I'd make phone calls, and then I'd lock down some deals, and then I would learn from others, and I would understand the business more of maybe how to keep the business that I was doing or that sort of thing. And after a while, I'd be like, man, I've done this much, and I'm not tired. I'm not dead. I mean, it's, feels pretty good. So I wonder how much more I could go. And so that first year when I started, I sold I think it was 9 homes. Okay. And so I went from 9 homes to, I think it was 16 homes to 25 homes. And then, and so in that 2 period, going from 9 to 25, peers at work were starting to be a little bit more excited and would, I guess you start feeling that momentum of others, just being excited for you and seeing what's going on. And so then I'm like, man, if I'm doing that, maybe I could do more. And so it just kind of morphed into to the point of before where you came on that we were doing, I think, just right around 90 transactions.
Okay.
And so I knew that I needed help.
And that was yourself and a small team, right?
There was me and a manager, a transaction coordinator, and 2 buyer's agents, I believe.
Okay.
And so...
And one that sold.
And one of them was the one that sold.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out how to do it, because you can only do so much. And so then that's when I grabbed you in the parking lot, as the story goes.
Right.
And so, but I knew that we needed help and we needed to get just some more momentum.
Yeah.
And so
cool.
I knew we could do it. I just knew that, the Gary Keller or I mean, he's the one that I believe said it, that it's not, it's the who. Who do you need to bring on? It's usually not a what, it's the who.
It's a who. I like that. So I know when talking about the phone calls, I remember I first started at KW and we didn't really know each other at the time.
Right.
I'd met you a couple times, but that's about it. And I remember being in my office and seeing you walking around the building all the time. And I was like, what is he doing every day, walking around the building? And then I realized that was your phone call time. You had to just be out of the office for that, right?
So my office was so small that I could only sit still for so long. And I mean, I could literally touch the walls,
Yeah.
I've always, when I did telemarketing, you've motion just helps,
Yeah.
And we had always talked that motion creates emotion, and so so that helped me is walking around, and I had zero office like to do that in. And in the phone calls, I knew this from working at that job, that telemarketing job, that like I could talk to people
Okay.
and I could figure it out, and I could learn, what people wanted over the phone. And when you're in telemarketing, what's funny is a lot of people get scared to make phone calls.
Yeah.
And I always liked it because the worst they are going to do is say something mean and then hang up. They can't,
Yeah.
nobody's got smacked through the phone. Nobody's, like it was like, I liked it. So I did know that I could like make as many phone calls as possible, and eventually a blind squirrel is going to find a nut every once in a while. So I thought I'm just going to call and call and call and call and call until I get somebody who will do business with me.
Right on.
And so that's
like
what
that.
I did, and I just believed in myself that eventually that it would work out, and eventually I would get a transaction. And so I made several calls. I'd come in at 9 in the morning, and I'd leave at probably 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I would
Nice.
just make calls because what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And I have these like excuse me, I have these things that I tell myself or remind myself that I'm like, man, what would you do for your family, or what would you do for yourself? Like if you could make $250 an hour, what would you do? And I mean, I'd do anything for $250 an hour. And so when you that's the cool thing that about real estate is really you can make that.
Yeah.
But you have to do the work. So I was like, man, if all it is phone calls, I could do that.
Yeah.
So I just sat and dialed and dialed and dialed and dialed and talked to people and talked to people, and then just learned to get better. The whole real estate's a contact sport, and as many at bats as you can get. And I struck out a lot of times, but then I learned like, okay, what can I fix to make sure that never happens again?
I like that.
And I mean, I lost a lot of money by trying to gain a lot of money, and that's just how real estate is. There is an expensive tuition that goes with it as you're trying to build a business.
Just not up front.
And grow. It's just not up front, and we're still learning, right?
Yeah, there's still expensive mistakes, right? Even though we've seen, thousands of transactions, and so we've seen a lot of different things, and we can avoid most of it. But there's still things that come up that we've never seen before. Real estate's never stagnant; it's always constantly evolving.
Right.
So,
And so that's where those phone calls came from. So I never door knocked. I've never door knocked.
yeah, you can go a lot of routes, right? You can buy leads, you can make phone calls, you can door knock, you can do open houses. There's a lot of different routes to go, and phone calls is the one you went with, but you were consistent with it.
Very consistent. The crazy thing is I think I did it until my business like took off. I think I only did it for 8, 9, 10 months, like super hard. And so that's where like, I don't know, it's hard to get that with people, like to help them understand, like it's not a forever thing.
Yeah.
You just got to work super hard at it for a period of time. And then you have to be honest with yourself and improve as you're working on it. And so, yeah, it was, so phone calls, but then I did do some open houses, but they weren't effective because you don't have as many resources to do open houses now as what you don't have the resources that you have now back then.
Yeah, of course.
And so you just kind of put signs in the yard, and I didn't door knock,
Hope that people show up.
and you just pray somebody shows up.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's how 90% of agents do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I was really good at that. And then I learned that was a terrible way to spend a Saturday. And so you just get better and you just evolve. And so you were talking about buying leads. I did that too. And I never could make it work. And I remember just always feeling like I was working the first 2 weeks out of the month to try to pay for something so that hopefully the last 2 weeks I could somewhat turn a profit. And it was never, I just hated that rat race. I always felt like I was chasing my own tail, and it never worked. So I wanted to come up with something that was A, more sustainable, B, more fun, and C, definitely more profitable. And so that's kind of where we came up with that model of where we're at, now.
Yeah. Nice. So throughout this, you're starting to gain some momentum in the real estate world. Things are starting to look better for you. Success, I mean, this is, of course, we're calling this the success blueprint, right? So, but success just isn't financial and just isn't business, right? I mean, there's success in a lot of different things, whether that's social, spiritual, relationships with your family, those kind of things as well. So what was that like during this time?
It's funny because with like my dad, and friends, like, you just get so busy that you don't have time.
Yeah.
And so he was always wanting me to be productive, but then, as I got productive, he was like, what the hell?
Don't have time for
Like,
me.
you never have any time.
Yeah.
And so he would ask me, be like, hey, let me go buy you lunch. And like all the time we'd go to lunch, and I just never had time.
Yeah.
And so it went from 3 days a week to 4 days a week that I'd have lunch with him to maybe once or twice a month.
Okay.
And so it sucks. I mean, there's a lot of good things you have to give up, but in the end, and I'll get to that in a second, but at home, there's a lot of things you have to give up. I did miss a lot of dinners and bedtimes and stories and things. But I knew that I wasn't going to do it forever.
Okay.
I knew it didn't have to take forever. And even through my lead gen, I missed the most of it, of those phone calls of that, 9 to 10 months. But even after that, it slowed down, but I still missed quite a bit. And however, I knew it wasn't going to last forever. So that being said, as we started doing better and making more money, then I was able to, instead of having lunches with my dad that were sometimes, I mean, they're never pointless, but it was just not as quality of time as, as always talking about something that was less important. But then we would go on vacations with my dad.
Nice.
Or my family, we were able to go on vacations together and things like that. And I would have to tell them, like, hey, if I do this for 3 months, we'll be able to go on this trip to California, Disneyland. Or if I do this for 3 months, we'll be able to go to Mesquite and, go down there for a week. And so they kind of bought into it. And I don't know the blueprint besides sacrifice.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can find somebody that maybe shares something with us that says you don't have to sacrifice
That's the
a
point
lot
of this,
of the
right?
things
To
you
find
love.
out better ways and other ways to do it, right?
Correct. But at the same time, I haven't found that. And so.
Cool. Well, I think someone once explained to me that there's never perfect balance. No one has ever like perfect balance in their family, work, everything, right? There's just the pendulum, and that pendulum just always has to come back at some point. If it doesn't come back, if it goes to one side for too long, then the other side is going to deteriorate.
Right.
It just happens that way. So that pendulum's always got to come back. And there's good times, like you said, if I grind for these 3 months and I hit this goal, then we're going to go on this vacation together. Then that vacation is time to kind of recapture some of that.
And I think the trickiest part, because when you're in the real estate mode, it's more like a current, right? Like you can't just get out of the current.
Yeah.
You're in the current. And so with that being said, it's hard to then go home and have family time sometimes when you're in the current of real estate.
Yeah.
And so I learned that it's tough. And so because people say when you're at home, be at home. When you're at work, be at work. And I love the theory.
In real estate, that's hard.
Yeah, I love the theory of that. And it makes sense. But yeah, if you're at home and you're trying to build a business and your phone rings at 7,
Yeah.
then what do you do? And so we've learned to gradually kind of learn to help our clients understand that sometimes we're not going to be as available as much.
Yeah, some of that's coaching with our clients, and most clients are great because they want you to have a life too.
Right.
And most people are really good about that. So
Right.
cool. So so I guess what was your initial thought? Like as we mentioned, there was some things going on in our local market at the time, some changes in that, and what I guess prompted you to go in and just say something to me?
Well, it's kind of funny because I told you when we met up, I was like, my dad at the time, he was like 60-ish. And I knew that he had some properties and I knew he had some things he kind of wanted to help me or show me.
Okay.
And so I was like, I wanted to do those things with him and there's great opportunity in them. But then I couldn't let, our team down and that sort of thing. So, the market was tricky and I knew I needed another me, or another me, or even somebody better at the things that I sucked at. And so, I've always thought that you had those things, and I thought, man, maybe I could sell him on this idea. Maybe he'll buy in on it, and maybe he'll do it. And so when bringing you on, that was kind of like, that's what's kind of funny is that you and I complement each other so well that it's like really the missing piece.
I think that knew us both at the time were kind of surprised that we partnered up.
Oh,
because we
100%.
were so different in so many ways.
Yeah.
But as we got to know each other, we're so similar in a lot of ways, but just go about it a different kind of taking different routes to the same end goal.
Yeah, and we have just different strengths, really.
Yeah.
Same person, just different strengths, right? So, I mean, you look at the Avengers, same group, same goal. They all have different strengths, right? And that's really. So when we partnered, I was like, "Hey, Jason, like my dad's 60, and I want to spend some time with him, and he's got some good projects, and what can we do to, get these things going? And I need somebody to help focus on these things, and while I can go focus with him, because I don't know how much time he's got left that he's going to want to do it." And so then the crazy thing is out of the blue, COVID hits.
Yep.
So we're rolling pretty good about a year-ish.
Yeah, probably a year, 2 years, close to that in that time frame.
And then COVID hits, and then he ends up, passing away. And it's kind of was like one of those unforeseen things that we kind of planned for, because then I'm able to help with his estate and get those going, which now we're finally kind of coming through. I was hoping that they would be a lot faster, but
those things take time for
but
sure.
good things take time, and so it makes it, it's pretty cool that it all worked out that way. And so we're able to keep the team intact, still grow, and then be able to do this stuff on the side that then in turn will help our team even grow further.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So as far as the last little bit as we're growing, we're always trying to tweak and evolve our team a little bit,
Right.
For the better.
Right.
We made just a little change just recently,
Right.
in that, for agents, right? So allowing them to do buyer and seller. We were always kind of the Gary Keller model before, where we had buyers agents and selling agents, and now we're opening that up a little bit. So I guess walk me through a little bit of our thought process and your thought process through that.
So I am just fine of not being the first of anything, And so a lot of people have told us, and a lot of people have tried to help us, to see that. And we were kind of if it's not broke, let's not fix it.
Yep.
And so so we kind of just kept that steady part of our business, and it just made sense. And then as we get going, it's kind of funny. I thought about it, and you thought about it, and then we come together, and you're like, "Hey, what's your thoughts on this?" And I thought, well, I've actually been thinking about the same thing, because there's so many awesome agents that I've talked to, and they say, I would join your team in a second, except I really want to do both sides.
Yeah.
And so there was no way I could explain logic to them, or I could show them. And so when you brought it to me, and I know maybe some of your reasons are maybe even a little different, but they all make sense. And so kind of all of the arrows then tilted to go this direction.
Yeah.
And so I feel like talented agents, we can get them to do both. I think that it will be another fun challenge that we can have them be productive on both sides. And I feel like it's going to be really exciting to get more and more agents, and then some of these talented agents that passed on us and that we had to pass on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this, but I think the biggest thing, I do still feel that that's the most efficient way, is doing buyers or sellers. And I think people do get better at it that way. Right. However, so many people, even if they want to focus on buyers, there's still that one or two listings that come along that they really want to list themselves or things like that. So I think it's just an opportunity for people to open that up a little bit, and we'll watch it closely, of course, and we'll see how people do, but we'll see if people can maintain that high level at doing both.
And it seems like, I know that as we've gone through this, that most people, I'd say all people, struggle with the either or, just in life. Yeah. You can either have this or you can either have that. Yep. And then they're thinking, well, I get both over here. And so hopefully we can get around that either or thing. And then now that they can have both, now we can help them do both more effectively, efficiently, and help serve their clients better. And it'll just be better for them, and it'll be better for the team. And that's, I think, back to the very beginning of this conversation, that's kind of the talk that we've had, right? What's better for the team is in turn going to be better for us. And so,
absolutely. Awesome. So with that, of course, you're in a little bit different spot now than you were when you first did that first flip house.
Right.
And you've come forward a little bit. Your family's grown.
Yep.
And so now, I guess, what are the things that you feel are going really well? And then what's one or two things maybe that you're still like, okay, I'm still kind of working on these couple items?
One thing that I feel like is going really well
Does it feel like a job interview?
The thing I feel like goes really well is I kind of, so when I started making money, I knew what it was like to be extremely broke, and I just wanted to do anything I could to not be in that situation ever again. Okay. So whatever I made, I kept my own personal, my expenses low, and I just shoveled everything into real estate, everything that I could. There's a story of I did some work for my dad. I had 25 grand. Back then there was a 1-bedroom house for 25 grand. Nice. I thought, when he pays me, I'm going to go buy a boat. And then I thought, well, if I buy this house for 25 grand, I know the house is going to go up in value, and I know the boat's going to go down in value. But if I buy this house, I can rent it out for $650 a month, and it's going to pay me back my 25 grand. And after it pays me back my 25 grand, I could go buy another boat, or I could go buy a boat and use that for a payment.
Yep.
I never bought that boat, but I bought that house. And so that was just my train of thought of thinking, right. I drove older vehicles. But I shoveled everything away. And so we were able to grow a pretty good portfolio of real estate, and it just kind of starts compounding. And so I did really, really well at that. Um, then we start getting into bigger deals that are more structured, and I think I've done really well at learning, but I struggle at, so like some people learn with like knowledge and books, and I learn um, Dustin Runyon says by a baseball bat, and I've got smacked over the head with a baseball bat and learning the hard ways of commercial real estate and commercial loans and these certain things. And so that's where I feel like I could do better at, is kind of do a lot more research or do a lot more mentorship of going into a lot of those. Um, my work life balance has, I think, swung the other way, where since my dad's passing, I mentally have this grasp on that life is
Time with loved ones, right?
yeah, and so I like focus on that constantly, thinking that there's not enough time or I'm constantly losing time. And so I'm trying to get that balance back of where I can, get back to where I'm supporting more of, the team and being more purposeful with that time, with a family and more purposeful with the team. And again, that's tricky.
So one thing that I've learned, and I knew kind of within that first 6 months we were partnered up, that you, in many respects, care more about other people's success than your own. And I think sometimes you care a lot more for their success than they even do. So has that always been part of your DNA, or is that something that's kind of been brought on as you've grown?
Well, I would tell you that my father was not that way. He was that way to an extent,
Okay.
but he was definitely a numbers person, But for me, the way I looked at it is, if I can help you and I can help somebody else and I can help somebody else, and if I can help 10 people and I can make 10 or 15% of what they make, then that's pretty solid, because I'm helping them do more than what they could have done on their own, but then I'm making a small portion of it. And so I also know what it's like to struggle and feel alone and not have help and not, have people want to help. And I do know what it's like to also have those people reach out their hand and try to help you a little bit. And so I definitely want to be that person for people, that when they look back and, they think of me, they're not like, man, that guy, like, he cut me the first time he could, or he always structured the deal so it benefited him. I'd like him to think like, man, he was always honest. He was always fair. Yep. He always, looked out for my best interest. He wanted to make sure that that I was taken care of. And I feel like if you do that, you will most of the time be happy. I feel like sometimes it can backfire, as as we've tried to make that work.
Sometimes, right?
But at the end, you can be like, well, that wasn't on me, like there's no way that person can go say I was this way or that way or this way.
Yeah.
Because first of all, so many people know that I'm not that way. And second of all, like, that's just not the way that it happened.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like the way you look at it is there is risk to that, and sometimes people take advantage of that, but that's kind of the price you're willing to pay to make sure you're always trying to be helpful and that guy.
Yeah, and I don't ever want to be looking over my shoulder. Like, I don't want to go out to dinner and be like, somebody's like, hey, there's so-and-so. And you're like, oh, shoot.
Oh, no.
That guy, I wonder if he keyed my car on the way in,
Yeah.
And so
it's a small town.
And so I would rather that person come up and be excited to see me instead of not wanting to make eye contact and want to look away real fast.
That's awesome.
So there's that part too. It's that personality trait that you want to be liked, but I think that you've got to do it in a healthy way so it doesn't eventually, because that can cost you everything,
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I guess other than we talked about your dad and of course Lacey, who else in your life has been influential that has maybe helped you turn a corner when you were younger, or have there been other people that you can name and say, hey, yeah, this person kind of helped me in this time?
So starting from, from the beginning, I had a really good high school principal that was pretty hard on me. He was a good dude. I thought he was.
I remember him coming in a couple times. He was pretty awesome.
I thought he was kind of an a-hole at times, but he was a really good dude. His name is Roy Smith, and he was really awesome. And then, my wife though has been. It would be hard to do what we've done without her, because she still does a lot of behind the scenes with managing books and taxes and things like that she never gets seen or heard or credited for.
Yep.
And she's the most patient person on planet Earth, which I definitely, thank God every day for that, because there's like a lot that wouldn't put up with it. And we've seen that, right? Where spouses don't really have the same vision. And then as I got older, definitely my dad. I've had church leaders that have helped me, and then definitely I would say you, like it's fun not just working together, but we have a really good relationship, personal relationship, and I learn a lot about business and real estate and life and being a dad and a husband and, all these things, I learn a lot of that stuff from you too. And so it's pretty cool. That's, I guess, one of the cool things about being partners is you learn so much from the other person. But, I'm sure that there's a lot more, but that's who comes to the top of my mind.
Awesome. I've heard you talk about your principal many times, and what influence he was at that time, which is pretty awesome. I love that. Cool. So I guess I don't know where to go from here. I guess we just, unless there's something else that you wanted to share that you think people would want to hear, or.
I think that, with this podcast, hopefully when people listen to it, they just can get a deeper vision of what you and I have and who you and I are and what it is that we're about and what we truly care about. I hope that people can see that, the success blueprint, like what you said, there's so many different successes, and you and I complement each other so much, but we're successful in different areas and more successful in different areas in our lives that we try to help everybody. So I hope that people see that, not everything's easy, to be successful, whether it's no matter what it is. I mean, I was telling my wife, like, I can't believe having a relationship sometimes takes so much work, and you can find the most special, most incredible person ever, but you have to work at it, and everything takes hard work. And that's what I hope people watching kind of understand, and I hope it inspires somebody to just do a little bit better somewhere.
Awesome. So. I love that, especially now, right? We see so many people that the perception is, they just fell into money, or,
they got lucky.
Yeah, exactly. They got lucky, or all of a sudden they blew up on socials and now they're making a ton of money and that. Yeah. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean they're happy. That doesn't mean they're successful. That means that, they made some money, but that doesn't mean
you wouldn't want to trade places with them.
Exactly.
And there was a lot of people who I thought, man, it'd be nice to have this or that. Yeah. And then I'm like, would I ever want to trade places with that person? Because the rest of it sucks. And so.
Yeah, like we had talked about before, it's like, so when people make a lot of money, it's like, okay, now are your conversations instead of with people you work with and that are attorneys.
Right.
To protect that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just to pick your poison.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's what I would say. In my 20s, I definitely hung out and had 3-hour lunches with beers and brats with friends. And then in your 40s, you have more lunches with attorneys and accountants and things like that to try to keep everything together so you don't go back to the beers and brats lunches. And so anyway, yeah, it's kind of funny how it all changes.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're excited about this podcast. We're excited to bring people on and learn from them. And great idea. I'm glad we're rolling with it.
Let's do it.